I go to a seminar and a lady gets up there and puts a picture of a young man up there who's 5 years old, died of a lack of blood, is what she said. So after the seminar, I went and talked to her and I said, could you find out if lack of blood is iron deficiency? And if so, I think we can help you out. And so she got back with me and said, yeah, it was due to iron deficiency.
Each year, around 3 million people die without any gift of food within the developing countries.
We went over there with 3 objectives last summer. The first objective was to do a hand washing study to emphasize the importance of hygiene to minimize illness and disease, especially foodborne illness risk. And so we did that implementing using soap, different types of soap, and trying to show the contrast between just washing your hands with water that you have available and washing with soap and water to minimize any bacteria that might be on your hands.
The Department of Animal and Food Sciences at Texas Tech University are working to help the Malawi people through education and training to have a sustainable crop and animal system for food production.
The second objective we had was to survey in villages about livestock management and protein consumption to get a feel for what type of livestock different people owned, how they were managing them, what they were doing as far as feeding, giving access to water, and then what sort of protein consumption they were getting from livestock-derived sources. And then the third objective was really to build collaboration between the different universities that we had access to in Malawi and Texas Tech University to try to set up the potential for future collaborative projects with our department and with those universities there.
So our whole objective is to try to educate, train, and build capacity for sustainable food production to decrease food insecurity, and especially micronutrient security like iron. Because iron is the most micronutrient deficient thing that happens in third world countries.
When Dr. Miller and I started talking about this food insecurity intervention for the children and mothers in Malawi, we realized that we wanted to have a way to measure the effectiveness of the goat meat intervention on the development of the children and the mothers. So every 3 months we took assessments of young children's social and emotional development, as well as their physical and cognitive development, and some pre-literacy assessments since they were preschool children. So my role was really working with those assessments and working with the graduate students, training the graduate students to conduct those assessments with the children.
It was hard when we showed up on day 1 in Malawi. We didn't really know what was going to happen. We had to set the plan in place once we got there, and so that was one of the biggest challenges overall, was just getting there, getting right to work, getting things set up, making sure we requested what we needed, but were respectful of the time we were asking of the people that were helping us.
Funding that we received from the San Antonio Livestock Exposition has helped fund this, along with Rotary International. So we've received grants with Rotary International, and they've teamed with us to go over and to build structures for goat raising facilities, to be able to purchase goats, and also to be able to build greenhouses and to teach and train the people how to do that. Because one of the things, due to the AIDS pandemic, we've lost a lot of human capacity. So all the knowledge on how to raise a goat is gone. So for example, we give them goats and they don't know how to care for them. Like, they don't know they need to get out and eat every day. They don't need water every day. And so we had to teach and train them how to be able to care for the goats and keep them, and then how to harvest them. And right now we're working on the preservation of the goat meat and a lot of food safety components like hand washing, preservation, and being able to maintain a safe food supply with no refrigeration.
So what we showed is that overall there were positive gains both physically, cognitively, and socially in the children across the period of the year. So children were starting to catch up to standard measurements of height and weight. I think one of the most striking findings for me was their social relationships. When we started the project, the preschoolers were because they were so nutrient deficient, they were very lethargic, and they were not interacting with each other. And what we saw a little bit starting at 3 months, but then really at 6 months, is that the children had started spending a lot more time playing with each other, interacting with each other, and they were actually starting to show signs of aggression, which is very typical among a preschool population.
Between setting foot in Malawi and being in the U.S. is just overall appreciation for the things that you have available to you. There's so much we take for granted here in the U.S. on a daily basis that you don't have access to there. Little things like having access to running water wherever you go, or being able to just drive down the road without goats running in front of you or something like that.
I'm very convinced that I learned more about working with these families in Malawi than they learned from me. I did learn about really the value of being very intentional in our daily lives and taking time to stop and talk to people when you see them and to give them a smile and to encourage them and not to be so focused on kind of the schedule and the timeline.
We did a study trying to show the impact of increased meat consumption in children and in women who were iron deficient. And so we started the project feeding 5 ounces of bone-in goat meat 5 days a week, and those children went from being lethargic, laying on the concrete with flies on their face and not moving, and almost kind of focused and not able to really do much, and the women couldn't walk very far either, to being able to run and fight 6 weeks later. And so just the improvement in the iron levels and their oxygenation in their body and their brain improves learning, improves their ability to have cognitive skills in the classroom. And also the women documented that they could walk for about 3 miles further each day.
Texas Tech University, Department of Animal and Food Sciences.